You don't look like you're ready to like rage today.
Oh, there's some stuff.
Oh, it's brewing.
There's always stuff.
There's some tension in
there's
that,
always
that
something.
friendly,
It's
like
not
laid back demeanor.
It's not really. It's a good kind of tension.
Yeah.
If I could say that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that usually alludes that there's a problem to be solved.
A solution to be found.
A solution to be found. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of perspective.
So what's on the plate?
Well, right now, I just stepped into that COP leadership position for engineering.
Yep, thankless job.
I'm thankful for it. Believe it or not, I really am. I love people. I love customer service. I did 23 years in the Air Force. Spent 17 years of that in medical.
Oh, I didn't know you're a medical guy.
Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I was a maintainer on the B-52.
Nice.
So,
the buff.
Third life, jumping into the IT sector, reinventing, trying to figure it all out. A lot of terms that got thrown, that were way over my head. I had to pull a lot of folks aside on the project and be like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Help me. And it was pretty cool the way that kind of happened because, and I'll get to the COP stuff here in a minute. It was pretty cool how that happened because I think people learn the most when they teach others.
I'll agree with that. That is a very powerful statement, actually, Joel.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Because it creates that accountability that you can't blow smoke. You got to know what you're talking about because you're accountable to that other person to then take what you've taught them and take it to maybe the next level or, kind of like kids with their parents. You want to raise your kids and give them the things that you never had growing up and set them up for success. And hopefully they surpass what you did.
Right.
Right?
Right. That's the first place I went to was kids when you said that.
Oh,
That's the first place I went to. I was like, you've got these moldable, really, I tell my kids this all the time, ignorant, right? Mm-hmm. They don't know what they don't know, right? And so what you tell them is what they're going to go do.
Absolutely.
And so you better tell them the right things or else you're going to create, not a good citizen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So same thing with people, right? With professional people, when you're trying to develop them, you don't want to put them on the wrong course.
Yep. And we're all just big kids. We all came from that, and I think some of us still hold on to that kid at heart, that curiosity, and that helps drive us to do excellent things.
Sure.
I really truly believe that, and I think it's in everybody's interest to do well. Nobody ever walks into a situation and says, yeah, I want to do the worst I can at this, So yeah, that ties into two things that I'd love to talk about a little bit. And first I already mentioned was the COP stuff, and we'll go to that first. But the second one is what I do here on this project with ACAS, being a Scrum Master. So the COP stuff, going into that, we're all just a bunch of kids trying to learn some new tools, trying to make our workplace better, make each other better. And something I see and vision for that going forward, that's somewhat new, that I actually heard rumblings of that was going on when the COPs first kind of started with UNCOMN, was more of an integrated approach where the COPs are more together.
Right.
Because we've got data, we've got enterprise, and we got engineering. Well, those three kind of make up that macro level of a project.
Yep.
So we've got these micro-learning teams going on. From those micro-learning teams, we're looking at setting up micro-project teams to demonstrate to the company.
Like cross-functional across the COPs?
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Right now, we're working with Terraform a little bit, and we got a micro-learning team going on with that. And they got a project kickoff happening this Friday for it. And I kind of heard the proposal of what they're going to get after a little bit. And as I'm sitting back listening to that, I say to our lead facilitator, hey, Matt, one thing I'm hearing here as you're mentioning all this is you're talking about Visio, you're talking about data architecture, you're talking about Jira and project management. I said, once we get this rolling a little bit, maybe our second or third session of this project as we're coming together, bring some of these young enterprise folks that maybe are on their first project to come in and help facilitate this, help teach what they know,
Sure.
and learn from what you guys are doing in that safe space, you know, to grow. And same with data, you know, bring them in. Let's bring it together.
Yeah, no, it makes tons of sense.
And just have a good time as a bunch of big kids.
It was interesting, you know, as you kind of alluded to, when we first started spinning up the cops, we were probably maybe 100 people, maybe. And so what you had was everybody knew everybody, right? And so as we've grown, you know, we're over 200 now. It's a little harder sometimes to recognize, you know, like I'm a green guy, I'm an engineer, right? And so who do I reach across the aisle to talk to about data or architecture? Sometimes that gets a little hard as you get bigger, whereas back in the day, you basically had the engineers in a meeting, and then the next meeting you were in the meeting, and then the next meeting you were in the meeting, because it was kind of the same people, and you're all trying to learn off each other and figure out. At the end of the day, a lot of it was each cop, like a representative, talking to the other cops about what they do, because that's really the first step, right? What does an architect even do? Why does it matter to me as a software guy?
Right. Yeah. And as a software guy, do you want to do that stuff? Maybe. But your first choice probably isn't.
Right. I want to sling code.
Yes.
Right. But the funny thing is, and something you learn to appreciate later, is if I had that architecture and I knew how to read it, because that's a big part of it too, I could have wrote that software probably 10 times faster, and it would have been a lot more, you know, in line with what the customer wanted if I had somebody to actually give me that blueprint.
Exactly. Yep. So we're all big kids, and we're all customers to one another, because we're all selling something.
Right.
You know, and if we're all buying it and we find that direction where to go together, man, just awesome things happen. Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
Alignment's the best thing ever, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know this as being a retired military guy is the mission aligns. And you could come from a lot of different backgrounds, but you're in alignment because you're trying to achieve that thing. And I think we've touched on it today throughout some of these other conversations we've had today, which is, you know, one thing I've found working with the military is we're all trying to get to the same place. And you can't say that about necessarily what those types of things happen in the commercial industry, because sometimes it's what you're in the commercial setting, it's more about what you're doing locally in your group or whatever. That group's trying to do this thing. And yeah, maybe it contributes to some bigger other things that the company's trying to do, but at the end of the day, what we're doing here is about getting the warfighter what they need to do what we needed to do as a country. And there's nothing more powerful than that kind of mission. Yeah,
it's huge. And when true strategic alignment happens, it's really beautiful. And I've seen it happen, truly happen, I would say, from all the way to the top to the bottom. I only saw it happen one time in 23 years in the Air Force.
But you'll never forget it.
No, I won't. It was an amazing time. It was in Aviano, Italy.
Okay.
Yeah. The new commander that took the stage for the wing, General Lasica, he said one thing. He just said, I want to make this place so that you want to run to work. And everybody in the crowd was just kind of like, what? Yeah, right. You know, you heard snickers, a few laugh. Everybody that stood there that day and was still at Aviano as he fulfilled his tenure there saw that take place.
So in 2 years?
Yeah. We saw that wing change. And a big implementation that helped kind of spurn that was, strategic alignment, but with a focus and a heartbeat on process improvement. improving those things around you, looking at everybody as a customer and looking at, just the order of things. There was a common statement said a lot of people, when people came with problems, the first question was, well, does every place have a thing, and does everything have a place? And if that's not true, then you're going to find waste. So let's try to eliminate that. Understand the constraints that we have to adapt and have, because you're not going to eliminate them all.
Right.
But the biggest thing wasn't necessarily all the goodness that was happening in the improvements, but it was the feeling.
Mm. Yeah, the morale.
Yeah.
Yeah, morale
increased. You saw countenances changing. I mean, I distinctly remember walking down the hall at my unit, and a captain from our resource management office is walking down, Captain Howell, I still remember her name, and she says to me, Sergeant Ives, don't you just feel it? She had this big smile on her face, and I didn't even have to explain or ask her. I knew exactly what she was talking about. And ever since that moment, every place I've been, every time I transfer to a new base, and then coming out of the military, I've chased that to see that happen again.
Yeah.
So like organizational culture, I love the idea of it, like working, getting people to that place, where they look across the aisle and they see others, and they're not just seeing themselves and their own problems, but they begin to embrace other people's problems and find solutions even for themselves out of doing that.
Right. No, that's, I can tell you, I've only felt total alignment a few times. It's like you said, it's not, as hard as we work to make UNCOMN the best place we can, it's still out of alignment,
Sure.
from time to time. And so you're not going to hit that all the time. But when you do, I know what you're talking about. I know there's stories in this company's history that I still talk about, and then people get tired of it because, they hear it too many times. But, there's a few instances, like you said, where there's just like at the right place at the right time with the right people, with the right leadership, it all comes together.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's gone,
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about. Absolutely. Yeah. So you're going to do that with a cop then, right? What?
That's
3 months. You're gonna.
I'm not going to, but we will.
Yeah.
I think we will. As Team UNCOMN, begins to progress, and we got a lot of new faces, a lot of new folks at the company. And we just became a large organization, a large business. So what a great time to hit that reset button a little bit and see where we can go with it, see where we can drive it next. One project that kind of pops in my mind is those strategic roadmaps that we have.
Sure.
Shouldn't those be visible to everybody in the company, and shouldn't everybody be able to speak to them?
Sure. Absolutely.
And I think that's a good goalpost for them, as we look to the new year and start developing those again.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more, not only transparency in some of that, but also leaning it down. Can't be everything to everybody.
Right.
And so leaning it down and being more focused on a specific set of targets that we can all rally behind.
Absolutely.
I think you're going to see that. I'm pretty excited about some of the. I'm stressed out, but I'm excited at the same time, right?
I know that feeling.
One thing that's pretty cool is, and hopefully you feel the same way, but I've always felt, and I've always espoused this, is if you have something you believe is the right thing to do, it's my job to give you the resources to do it. And time again, as I've stepped to the plate to say, hey, we need to go do this, my other partners have said, okay, here's the runway, go do it and deliver. And I can say, not every time have I hit it out of the park, or other folks have hit things out of the park, but we got a pretty high batting average. I'd say probably 900 if you're going to talk about it. So, as you think about, the things that you need to get to where you want to go with how you want to do things or what your team needs and things like that, I think the resources are there. It's just a matter of asking for them and
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we've always been there to give people what they need. With your kind of situation in the COP, I think more than anything, and this, is it's the talent that you have at the top to be able to lean on, right?
Yep.
And you've got quite a cadre of senior guys coming together under you. I don't know how you've been able to kind of circle the wagons with them, the Ryan Soothers, the Mike Dabbs, the Corey Siebers, the Josh Hurst, the Justin Perozas, you got a pretty interesting cast that has assimilated now over the last 6 to 8 months. Some of them have been here for a while. Some of them have been here and come back. Some of them are brand new to the company, but it's an exciting time to be in engineering, I think. You got some cool challenges in front of us.
Yeah, I'm familiar with each one of those names you mentioned. And one thing that we're doing is that we meet every Friday, all the fours, all the fives in engineering. We meet every Friday. It's just a 15-minute huddle, and we rally around a question that, and the whole idea behind that, and I've kind of looked to this as, the drum to beat, the pathway to kind of go, because I've seen it successful thus far, is connection, collaboration, and then capability. Because if you just look for capability, you're going to miss the collaboration,
right,
and it's not going to become what it could have been. And if you look to collaborate before you connect, everybody's already disjointed. So kind of looking at it from a lens of mentorship, like, in the 23 years I served in the military, I was never truly mentored by anybody I didn't know. I had to have a connection with them. I had to have some kind of relationship there.
Right.
I've never seen a program really work, for long term for mentorship. I've never seen assignments given for mentorship and that really work. But I've seen connections, even some of the weirdest connections, work amazingly,
right,
just through, fun and, name calling a little bit, little trash talk here and there. It's amazing what little things like that just kind of spark off into these things that we, the business world, the companies really want.
Right.
And it's going back to that statement, and just recognizing that we're all just big kids. We want to have a good time,
right,
and we want to see this thing move.
Well, there's an element though of trust.
Yes.
Right. If I can, have a witty banter with you about whatever that is, there's a certain level of trust that you and I have built and established, and then when you and I go to work on a project together, I know what I can get out of Joel, and you know what you can get out of me. And if something goes sideways or I'm not producing the way I should be producing, you're going to go at me. And you know what? Because I trust you, I'm going to take that and know what it means and know what I need to do. And I think that's a big part of that, right?
Absolutely, yep. Breaking those walls down,
right,
so you can get to the real conversation, get to those real things that are on your mind, instead of, living on that surface and, thinking we're moving along when we're not. Sure. But just sitting with that objective truth, where are we and where do we want to go? I think it's huge. A lofty goal I had coming out of the military was to land a job and at a company that I wanted to stay with throughout for a second retirement.
Sure.
I could
say it's a big commitment.
Yeah, it was a big goal. Like, I mean, I really, I think, put myself out there, and I was like, oh, I don't know, just looking at the landscape. But what drew me to UNCOMN was it was a YouTube video. I just YouTubed UNCOMN. I saw the job post.
We're very famous on YouTube.
I saw the job post on LinkedIn, and there's this guy playing with a Rubik's Cube. There's people playing with Nerf guns. in the office, you know, and then you see this screen with all this code and people are working hard, and then Jason comes on and he starts talking, you know, just about people first and, you know, loving the problem and getting after these things. And I was just like, I felt like he had listened to me or was like a fly on the wall in my last 10 years in the military, because everything he was saying, everything I saw everybody doing was the things that I loved. And I'm just like, and as a matter of fact, in my onboarding, when I met with Jason, I told him that story, like, you know, I feel like this could be the place, and I still feel like that now. I really do.
Well, I'm happy you
really
still feel that
enjoying
way. We didn't disappoint you. Yeah, no, I think part of that chemistry is, and this goes back to when I met Jason. You know, the first time I met him I was working for a company out of Virginia, but I was here, and they kind of gave me the edict of winning more work. And so here I was, a software developer, project lead, that all of a sudden I had to develop business for the company, you know, and as you get into the business development kind of space, it's like a secret handshake. I mean, there's a lot of crazy things you got to understand that normal people wouldn't really want to learn. You know, it doesn't really have any practical application other than to winning a government contract. And so anyway, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was going to prime an opportunity because I had all the confidence in the world. And I had a friend of mine who I called him up. I said, hey, we're going to go after this. I said, I want you on my team. I think you're really good at what you do, and I think we can make a difference. And he said, great. I need you to call Jason Carter. I said, okay, why? And he goes, because you're going to add him to your team. And I said, well, what has he got to offer? He goes, nothing. But you're going to find out he's a great guy. And I said, oh, okay. That's fine. You know, whatever you say, Brendan, you know what you're talking about, right? So I added Jason Carter to I think I called him up and I sent him an email because Brendan gave me his email, and I sent him the thing, and he's like, what's going on here? And I'm just like, just sign the NDA, let's go. Brendan says you're in. So the very first kickoff meeting we had, me, again, not knowing what I was doing, there's all these volumes you have to create for a proposal. And it's a lot of work to deliver these volumes. A lot of editing, just a lot. And so what you do is you set up book bosses, and that person's in charge of delivering that volume. Well, normally the prime does all the book boss work. But as we were going around the circle of partners and whatnot, and Jason could tell I was on the struggle bus, he all of a sudden volunteers to take over our past performance volume himself, which I had only promised him one person if we won the contract. But he didn't care. He was going to over-contribute. He was going to do whatever he could to make a difference, to help me out, even though he didn't know me from Adam. And so we went on to successfully turn the proposal in. Lesson learned, make sure the customer wants you before you propose on something. Because regardless of how well you do in writing it and pricing it, you might be a very well-written proposal with a very good price. They're not going to pick you. And so we had, a lesson learned there, but the biggest thing that came out of that for me was now all of a sudden I have this guy who I want to have more conversations with. Why did you do that? Why would you help me out like that? And I learned that here I have a guy who was a Navy nuclear engineer turned IT professional, from Missouri, of all places, driving aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines all over the place. But at the end of the day, he was an engineer at heart, and he wanted to build a company that allowed engineers, allowed data folks, allowed architects to be who they are, right? And it's not about the money. It's about building an awesome company, and the money will follow, And so it's never been about, profits for us. It's always been about how can we get the best people, but then put them in a position to succeed, and then hopefully we can make some money. Sure. And it seems to have been a pretty good winning formula. I think you kind of tapped into that a little bit when you were looking around.
It's exciting. We just got out of a phase 2 orientation meeting with our newcomers, and all the cop leads and lines of service are in the room. And I made a comment, like, toward the end, I said to the newcomers, like, you're so lucky to be here, because, like, none of this was scripted. We're just all in each other's heads, and we're just getting together and talking about the things we care about. And I think that's exactly where you're coming from, is, you know, that's what we do here, you know.
Yeah.
And I love it. I just love it, the heartbeat of it.
No, that's awesome. So switching gears a little bit, you're on a very interesting project. And I say that because a lot of people don't understand the project you're on, you know,
Okay.
like what it's for. You know, it's congressionally mandated, you know, it's about air safety. It's about the fact that we don't have enough airplanes in our military to do all the work. So we have to contract out, work with commercial industry partners, right? And so the work that you guys do on that contract is really important to make sure that we have safe air transportation controls. You know, it's a result of a tragic accident, really, more than anything.
Right.
Without getting into like specifics or any sensitive things, I mean, you know, can you talk a little bit about the controls we have to put in place and the inspections and any of that kind of stuff at all? Kind of give people a little bit of an idea of like one of the projects that we have going?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's ACAS, and that stands for Air Carrier Analysis Support. And it's a modernization effort and a cloud, you know, moving this DoD program into the cloud, into the U.S. Transcom cloud. With most development projects in software, you know, we think of the end user as the person at the computer using this thing, but where our team is kind of rallied around and put our minds in when we're actually doing this work is that troop, that airman, that soldier, that seaman that's going to get on that air carrier from Delta or whoever and go fight these wars for us and protect our nation. Keeping that vision, that understanding at the heart of what we do really helps drive, you know, hey, you're not just coding for this person sitting at a desk, you're coding for that person in uniform. So that's really big. So we've got maintenance inspectors, we've got operations inspectors, that's your more high-level folks that are going out to these sites on temporary duty assignments to evaluate these aircraft and make sure that they're safe for our folks. So ACAS is a program, basically as a database that stores all that information, all those dates, all those types of visits and things that they need to do, and creates, you know, that safety checklist, so to speak, for them to say, hey, this one is good to go, so that at a moment's notice when our guys and girls in uniform need to jump on a plane and go take care of business, they can.
Right, which is incredibly important. Incredibly. I'm sure you had a ride on a few of those planes in your career too.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
So you know firsthand how important it is to. That's the last thing you want to do, is have to worry about whether or not the plane is flight worthy.
Absolutely.
Right? You got other things on your mind down range for sure.
Yeah. Longest flight was 33 hours.
Oof. Oof.
To the farthest piece of land that you can get from the United States.
I was going to say, it feels like you would have flown around the globe.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your service for sure, and I think that's kind of one of the other great things about the company that I really love, is being able to work with guys that have put on the uniform, have been there, done that, because I can then learn from you about the importance of the work that we're doing. You know, I think that's really critical. For non-military guys like myself, is I love hearing the stories. I love hearing how the systems impact, you know, what you guys had to do in uniform. I think all that's really important. I think that's why we have this really neat meshed kind of grouping of people here, where not all of us are military, but we mesh really nicely with folks like you that are bringing a lot of experience.
And it feels good to serve them that serve.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yeah. So becoming I walked into the job as a Scrum Master, and where I kind of led off into that path was I was senior enlisted, senior NCO in the Air Force. Toward the latter half of my service, I fell in love with continuous process improvement. That fell in line with the whole story about Aviano, Italy, where we saw that strategic alignment. From there, I continued on and got a master's degree in project management, studied, the PMBOK and whatnot, and saw the agile side of the house. And I saw that as more closely aligned and conducive with process improvement because it's customer centric. Where your traditional project management, there's still the customer there, but you're not delivering until you have that whole cake.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're almost applying a one-size-fits-all model to a project, and if you don't do it that way, it's not efficient, right?
Yep.
Whereas Agile is not that way at all.
Absolutely.
Right.
And as a Scrum Master, that really closely aligns with being a senior NCO, because as a senior NCO, you stop those impediments, you cut those roadblocks, you kept that goodness flowing of work. And you're working with that team, you're building that team. There's times you got to be a leader. There's sometimes you got to step in and manage a little bit, or help manage at least. But when you got that good leadership behind that, and people want to, people latch onto that vision and want to help, that it just comes together, and you got that team rolling together.
Right.
So seeing that happen on ACAS, working with 3 different companies, ours and 2 others, and bringing us together in a virtual space. I mean, it had its challenges, but I've seen it happen, and I've seen those walls come down where we can banter and joke and trust each other and walk forward and drive this thing.
Yeah, it's incredible. We've been on that contract for a while, and the difference between before and now, not saying things were bad before, but
Sure.
but things are even better now, right? Because of kind of some of the changes that have been made, and continuity in some regard, and bringing a lot of that expertise to those new guys, but they also have a ton of capability. They have a lot of upside capability that has made it a lot better. It's exciting.
It is. Yeah.
What else you need?
I was thinking of a curveball of what question do you have for Nick?
Oh, here we go. Might as well save that for 4 o'clock.
What? So I know a little bit about your background with IT. Is that where you started out?
No. Funny enough, I had so I'll say this. I've always loved data. Always loved it. And so from a very early age, for whatever reason, I got infatuated with the stock market. And so this is the stock market before what we know today. I actually would have to go buy the newspaper and read the tickers and figure out what was going on, and then track, performances of stocks. I didn't have the money to, go get a broker or anything like that. And so, but by the time I was 16 and I was doing like a lot of odd jobs and mowing lawns and stuff, I bought my first shares of a publicly traded company. And so it was natural for me, going into college, I wanted to be I wanted to work on the trading floor. I wanted to go to, it's funny is of all the weird things, and I think it was mainly geography driven, at that time I could have said, I want to work on the New York Stock Exchange, right? That would have been everybody's dream. But mine was actually Chicago Board of Trade. I liked the CBOT, I liked the commodities trading side of the house. I liked the fact that it was in Chicago. It's only 4.5 hours away from where I lived. I thought that was an achievable goal, right? And so I went to school. I was a finance econ major in the School of Business at SIUE. But the thing is, I found out very quickly, we had this very odd congruence of professors, because we quite literally had the inventor of the arbitrage calculation for international finance was a professor at SIUE at that time. Wow. Which is, how does that happen? And the guy was from China. and he developed this whole arbitrage methodology that everybody adopted in trading currencies and things like that. And that was his baby. And somehow the guy ends up in Edwardsville, Illinois. Like, I don't even understand that. We had a former deputy president, or I can't remember. He was a very high level at the Federal Reserve Bank in St. Louis, who, for whatever reason, resigned from the bank and became a professor at SIUE at that time. We had a guy named Robert Phillips, who was from Silicon Valley. We had another guy named Barty that he was so good at finance and economics that Enron hired him at Enron's height, and they moved him to Texas to help them run a bunch of financial modeling. Short story there. He saw from the inside how bad things were at Enron when he got there, stayed long enough, got his stock options, vested them, got out like a year before it crashed. Like, made his money and came back. So anyway, so here I am going to SIUE with this crazy amount of unbelievable people. And I quickly realized I was way out of my league. That my ability to follow through with this dream I had about going to the CBOT was probably not a reality. But I still pushed forward. And so by the time I was getting ready to graduate with my degree, we had the stock market crash of the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And all the jobs dried up. And then you also had rapid market consolidation. So you had multiple trading markets all started folding into each other. And so jobs got more and more scarce. We had a great company here in St. Louis called A.G. Edwards that I was kind of lined up to go work for, and they went out of business. They got bought out twice, laid off like 1,000 people. It was incredible, like overnight. And so here I am getting ready to graduate, and I said, boy, prospects aren't looking too great. What am I good at? Oh, my dad's had me writing code since I was 13, just messing around.
Wow.
Maybe I should write code for a living. And so I just stayed in an extra year and got a CMIS degree, and I was good enough at coding at the time. I got an internship with a friend of mine, and I was writing code that entire year. So as I was taking the courses to get that degree, I also was actively, professionally writing code for a living, which made things a lot easier because I kind of knew things that other kids didn't know. And I graduated in 5 years with 2 degrees.
Wow.
And then
that's pretty cool.
Just became a programmer. Yeah, weirdest thing. And then, of course, the other thing that you look at all I still don't fully get everything that happened to get me here today. I will say, though, I think having a finance economics background is very unique for someone with a programming acumen. And so it helped me throughout my career have conversations with executives that IT people don't have. And so I've always worked with the C-suites. I've always worked with senior level leadership. Even in Anheuser-Busch as a contractor, I was in a lot of meetings, with planning meetings and stuff with the brewmasters and things like that of the brewery that really ran the show. And so I've always been able to have those conversations with folks, dumb down what I do, and also tell them what value I can provide them, right? Because that's really important. But yeah, somehow, some way I made my way here. But a long time ago, I wanted to be on the CBOT floor trading commodities. So it is what it is.
So of course you saw that 80s movie Wall Street, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite movie growing up?
As my kids know, and really, unfortunately, my wife knows too, because my kids inherited my sense of humor. My favorite movie growing up was UHF with Weird Al.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Which Weird Al always says, if, what was it, Indiana Jones, maybe it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, I can't remember which one, hadn't come out that summer, then UHF would have been the #1 movie in the country.
Yeah.
But Glenn Ross. So I know that was a Broadway kind of, it was a play before it became a movie. But the movie is epic. It's an epic movie. I actually got to reenact that scene my senior year with Alec Baldwin.
Wow.
one of
Finance to acting to engineering.
No, it was just one of those things. We had a business class,
Okay.
and the professor was trying to make a point, and she asked us to act out a scenario. Well, I decided to just go full Glengarry Glen Ross on her and
Oh, that's awesome.
took my shoe off and said, "You see this shoe? It's worth more than your entire living that you make."
Well, let get into character. Let's hear it.
No, we're good. It's been too long.
We gotta move to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Sure.
Yeah, but anyway.
This was fun.
No, this was really fun. We don't get to hang out very often, so
Right.
this was cool. Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot more about you now, and I'm looking forward to doing some big things with you.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah,
Appreciate
appreciate it,
you.
man. Thank you.